Hello there. My topic is chastity today, and what is it, and how's it lived, and what can it mean to you? Okay, first of all, a definition. Chastity is the proper use of sexuality according to your state in life. In other words, married people are expected to be having sexual intercourse. Unmarried people are not supposed to be having intercourse. And people are not supposed to be doing anything sexual outside of the marriage act within the context of the sacrament of marriage. Now, that's the church's teaching, basically, at the bottom line, that anything outside of it, outside of marriage, that you're doing is considered sinful. Now, there has to be a judgment on how sinful it is. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But chastity is, once again, it's the proper use of one's sexuality according to your state in life. Now, the thing about being a teenager, because this is who this is geared to, it's teenagers, is that when you were little kids, this wasn't a concern. It wasn't. And it wasn't a concern for any of you until you hit puberty. And then all of a sudden you have to deal with these hormones as you were growing up. I had to do it. Everybody who's an adult had to go through this. And you're going through it right now. Now, the thing is that one of the things that I can talk about this. When young people come to confessions, they'll sometimes say, Father, I had dirty thoughts, and I thought, well, no, what do you mean by that? He says, well, I see somebody that I'm attracted to, and I really start thinking about it. I says, okay, stop. I said, stop. I said, every human being is attracted to other human beings. Okay, that's it. How do you think God gets us together as husband and wives? That's why it starts with a mutual attraction. But sometimes it's worrisome because it can lead to other sins, like fornication, which is having sexual intercourse with somebody who isn't your spouse. And the other thing, of course, is an adultery. Fornication, both are unmarried. Adultery was one or both of them are married outside of their marriages. And the third thing that is most common, of course, is masturbation for men and women, okay? So these things are serious, but depending on the individual and what happened and all that, you have to kind of talk it over with your confessor. That's the important thing. Most young people are reluctant to talk about this because they don't want the priest to think they're some kind of a pervert or anything. But the priest doesn't think that. That priest is a human being too. He goes through the same stuff you do. But a lot of young people mistake temptations for sin. Everybody gets temptations. You can't stop it. It's natural. It's normal. You see somebody who's attracted to you and you go, oh, wow, that person is beautiful. I'm really attracted to him. And maybe even you start thinking about what they might be like. Well, you can stop yourself and you can turn a temptation into prayer by saying, this is something took me years to find out, but this is what I do. I'll say, Lord, help me to love people the way you want me to, that in a way that gives you glory and respects their integrity. That's basically it. And I would counsel you to do that, to deal with your, quote, dirty thoughts that are normal temptations through prayer. And if it keeps coming back, the more you pray, the less the devil's going to want to get at you. He doesn't want you to pray. He wants you to sin. That's it. But the devil's after all of us, all the time, And the best thing you can do is not to get excited or upset about it, because you have to treat it like you do with a mosquito or a fly. Get out of here, come on, that kind of thing. You aren't gonna plunge me into it, and you get your strength from who? Well, from God. And we all have human weaknesses. That's what St. Paul said. If I have to boast about anything, let me boast about my human weaknesses, because then God can make me strong, and He can make us strong through prayer, through the sacraments, through the rosary, through all the things, especially the Mass. That's the best thing that we can do. Now, the other thing is that what implications does that have for you as teenagers, unmarried, on your way? And when you start dating somebody that you really like and you begin to fall in love with them, you have to be very careful, because what can happen is you could fall too deeply in love before you're ready emotionally to deal with that. So over the 48 years of priesthood I've had to counsel some young people, both young men and young women, who were near suicidal because they broke up, close to suicide. It was so, they were not emotionally able to handle the intensity of a relationship once they agreed to start having sexual intercourse, because that binds you together with the other person very closely, whether you're married or not, you know. And that's the problem. That's why I encourage young people, please don't start having premarital sex, because if you do it once, you're just going to want it again and again and again and again. You are. And then the whole problem becomes, you know, what do we do? You know, what do we do? Because you're either going to have to marry the person, which may or may not be, in most cases, may not be a good idea. Or number two, you have to, you know, walk away from them, and you have to do other stuff. So use prayer and use your faith. Use the things that God has given you in the church to help strengthen you so that you can do the right thing in relationship to people of the opposite sex as well as the same sex. So chastity is one of the three evangelical counsels. Anybody who's in a religious order, man or woman, priest or nun or brother, takes poverty, chastity, and obedience. Most of them do. Those are the three evangelical counsels. Priests take a promise of celibacy, which also includes perfect continence. Now, what does perfect continence mean? It means you don't have sexual intercourse, you don't have sex, you don't put yourself in those positions where your human weakness might take over. But the important thing is to realize that the devil's going to tempt you and that you can resist it strong in the faith. God bless you.